request for a subdivision amendment. A plat amendment for the Ned Whitbeck subdivision. It's located at 2127 North Morgan Valley Drive, close to Milton. This little corner up here, up Morgan Valley Drive. These lots, the zoning map, it's zoned RR1. These are the 3 lots in question. There's an existing subdivision, and this is just kind of an interesting evolution, I'm going to say, of how this property was developed. We're trying to clean it up with this application. It's a little bit interesting in that these 2 lots were platted and given lot numbers. This third area up here was a parcel, but it was also kind of referenced in the subdivision, and so we're clearing it up and making this lot 1, lot 2, lot 1A, lot 2A, lot 3 of the subdivision. They're expanding the property lines a little bit to the south. Okay, so that's the existing subdivision with these 2 lots, and then there was an overlap of this parcel. The new plat, here's the new plat, will be 1 lot, a second lot, and then the third. And they're getting a little bit deeper, so they maintain their area, but they meet all the standards for the zoning. I think we have a few conditions of approval. Staff's recommending approval with a few conditions of approval so that we can ensure that the plat is platted clearly and safely. So that basically it's just so that we know that it's an amended plat. We're adding an A to lot 3. We want a no-build line on lot 1A because we don't have any geologic hazard information beyond that point. It's further up the slope and very steep, so it's highly unlikely that they'd ever want to build there anyway. But we're just going to request that be added on there. We need tabulation showing the number of lots. And then add a plat note that says Morgan County restricts the occupancy of buildings within developments as outlined in the adopted building and fire codes. So you need a certificate of occupancy to live in the dwelling, which is code anyway, but we need to add that to the plat. The geologic hazards are a bit of an issue, as we've stated. And so we can kind of see where the changes are. This is the geologic hazard soils, and there will be no development in that area, but we wanted it called out so that's so over time we know that that's why there's nothing there, just to help clarify things. And so this picture shows a little bit of how the property lines exist today with these yellow lines, and they're just adding a little bit to each of them, kind of shifting, so to increase the lots. I'm not sure how much you want to get into in depth, in detail, but I'll just say the staff has reviewed it and with the conditions of approval recommends approval. Any questions?
Any questions for staff? Just have one question for the applicant if they're here. Would you mind, sir, just coming up to the microphone? Can you just state your name just for the record?
Ned Whitbeck.
I just wanted to ask you if you had a chance to look at staff's report and their findings on there. Do you have any objections or anything with anything?
I haven't really looked at his report, but I don't think there's any objections. But we're just trying to enhance one property a little bit by moving a property line. And to do that move of the property line, we needed to take some property in the back just a little bit, move the line in the back just a little bit. As far as the geological survey or anything, I mean, it's gonna be no different than it is now, because we're just trying to move a line, and for some reason, I don't know why the city requires us to add the other property in as a part of the subdivision, but that's not a problem to us, it's just a curiosity.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to make sure if you had any comments for any of the conditions that were in here. So if not, do anybody have any questions for the applicant?
Do you have any comments?
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Any discussion? No? Okay. I'm ready for a motion if you would.
Mr. Chair, I move we recommend approval to the County Council for the Ned Whitbeck subdivision plat amendment, application 18.036, located at approximately 2143 North Morgan Valley Drive, based on the findings and with the conditions listed in the staff report dated February 14, 2019.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Sometimes it's just boring.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
A lot of information in there for that, all that.
What's that?
There's a lot of information in there for all that.
Yeah, there is. That's as much as I've ever seen.
I really like the staff report format. Yeah, sorry. Item number 7, sorry.
I didn't know if you wanted me to come up and do an introduction on that.
We just need to, yeah, just help guide us through it if you will.
So, yeah, we just wanted to look at, with Member Little, we wanted to go back and revisit our bylaws and just kind of touch base on them and review them. At our last meeting, we had some good discussion about some issues. We've tried to put those all in here. I think we've captured everything. Some things are just typos and grammar changes, but, so we just wanted to walk through that. I really think there's a couple of questions that I'll just ask it. One on the quorum standard. Let's see, I'm trying to find here. What was the issue?
Well, it says any member disqualified because of conflict of interest. State code says you're not disqualified because of conflict of interest. You state your conflict of interest and you can still vote. So that was just, I don't know,
That doesn't make sense.
I know it doesn't, but that's state code. You just have to declare.
Right.
So the state code, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
The state code standard is, if you have a conflict of interest, you have to declare it. That's all you have to do.
Right.
But in the case, what we're talking about here is someone says, I have a conflict of interest, I don't feel comfortable voting
Right.
one way or the other.
But then you're not disqualified. You
You're
are,
not disqualified.
and maybe another name. I mean, just another.
Any member disqualifying themselves because of it?
Well, yeah, disqualified
one
is
is
a broad enough term. It's disqualified.
Any
means
member
something
abstaining,
you're in trouble with.
abstaining because of a conflict of interest.
Sure.
Because of conflict of interest. Yeah, that'd be good. So we can make that change. And then the other discussion was, and we kind of just checked into, quorum is 4. You have to have at least 4.
Right.
If somebody is abstaining for some reason, then you drop to 3, you can't do business. You have to have 4 people that can vote.
Well, doesn't it depend on the item? If she has a conflict of interest on item 4, we wouldn't be able to vote on item 4, but we could still
Correct.
hold a meeting, right?
So,
Correct.
Yes, yes.
Right.
It would be
And vote on
a-
other things.
On a business item or a public hearing or.
Or we could vote
meeting
to
item.
postpone because they're going to abstain. As long as they don't
Well,
abstain.
by default, you'd have to. you wouldn't
You
be
say
able to take
default,
action,
you
so-
postponed it.
Yep,
What's that?
by default.
By default, it's postponed because,
Yeah, it just makes it cleaner, I guess, because you could make a motion
yeah,
and
but
vote on it.
it's a,
But that person couldn't vote on,
yeah, so if you got
Postponing.
4 and 1 doesn't vote, then
Yeah.
you can't, it's clear.
And it's never really happened either, so. Not to say it won't, but it's not really, it's
Next
not really
week.
broken. What's that?
Next week.
Next week it will, but we have plenty of people here.
The other question, going to page 2, so it doesn't sound like anybody has any issues with the way that's worded, we'll change it.
Just abstain.
disqualified to abstain.
So is item J even necessary to have?
well,
in?
yeah, he can vote whenever he wants. Does it have to be part of the bylaws that says he can? It says he may, it doesn't say he shall. It says he may, well, he can do anything he wants.
It kind of goes along with
Well, isn't that a
K.
Robert rule, and isn't that what we follow?
Very modified, very loose.
I'd just leave it alone.
No, a maze or maze.
It's just information, it's like, that's nice to know, I guess.
The
Right.
chair can vote to make a tie?
Yeah, because
He could do whatever he wants.
that'll defeat the motion. It's a tie. If there are only 6 here that night, or 4.
I think it's fine leaving it in there.
Okay.
Anybody else?
On page 3, under number 7, we just want to make it consistent. Staff, myself, I would like to see that just be 3 days so that I can actually, if something comes up, I can still meet it. Because I hate to violate the laws every time I have a long week and don't get the plat, or don't get the application out, pack it out on Thursday. Although that will be our goal, and I can't conceive of not meeting that.
So this would make it like a conforming lot, it's kind of a thing. This would just
Yeah.
make our previous policy conforming.
Our previous inform, well, you were inconsistent before, so there was no,
Absolutely.
so.
What do you guys think about that?
So,
That's
but-
fine.
But are you guys okay with 3 days? That way I can,
I am.
if something does come up, we can get it out on Monday.
A week before is nice, but yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
but the goal and the policy, the office policy will always be to get it out on
But you could even send out the main pack, and then if you have to add something, you could do that, right?
Yeah.
On a big packet, yeah,
So
that'd be a
maybe
good idea.
We can give you 60% or 80% of the packet, if a little more comes out on Monday, we're still okay.
Yeah.
It only comes into
I
play
know it
when
don't
there's just
happen
a
all the
lot,
time, but
when there's a lot of information. When you have to put it in Dropbox and give us a link, those are the times when it's great to
And
have.
you need it on Thursday. Because I know you spend your whole weekend doing that.
Debbie does. And I'm really speaking for her right now.
Every day's a weekend for me.
On page 4, number 3, not allowed to vote unless you're our president's meeting. The county council, they can call in to the meeting.
And we had worked on a change to it, but it never got voted on. It kind of fell through the cracks.
For my time, so.
Yeah, we had language and everything drawn up, and I thought we had voted on it.
we've done it.
Not call in, I don't think. We have?
When I first,
Yeah,
Oh, that's right.
because we
Oh, 4
had,
years ago.
And I thought we did vote on it, so,
well, I can't remember his name, he sat over here by me.
and then, yeah, because I took his place.
Yeah.
And then the first
You-
couple meetings I was at, I attended, there was somebody who called in. Didn't work very well, but
No,
I think
it's-
Mike was out of town once and called in.
right, yes. So, should we,
Would you like us to add the language from the council that they have on that topic in their bylaws?
yeah, that would,
I think so.
I think so, that would be fine.
Under F, procedure, we just changed it to the actual order we do now. For some reason, it's the other way around. The other big change would be under number 5, F5, at the bottom of page 5, it's submission of written materials. we'd like to have the last sentence read, if the information received is pertinent to the project decision, and said decision may be postponed, instead of shall. So if you get a substantial amount of information, you obviously can't process it to make a decision, you may postpone. But if it's one page, it's a letter from somebody, you don't have to. Right now, you have to postpone.
If it's substantial, but what does that mean?
Quorum, we've got it, so that's introduced. Right now, and really, we have not been doing this, but we keep trying to do better at it, but we'd like the petitioner or the applicant to speak first and present their application. They need to present their request. That way, they're responsible for that information. The staff can give a presentation on the recommendation, have the public meeting, close the public hearing, close the public hearing, and then in F, we are wondering if, do you need to make the motion before having the discussion?
We don't follow that rule.
And do you want to require that that happens?
I don't.
I don't.
I think it helps to talk before we do our motion personally.
It's been effective.
That gives us time to think about it.
Instead of
I
withdrawing
don't really care as
motions and
long as it's
amending
consistent.
motions and,
I don't like it when it goes both ways, so.
What do you mean?
Well, it's usually someone makes a motion, and then it's open for discussions, is that what we're saying? So oftentimes, and I don't mean to reflect poorly on you, Gary, but sometimes you just go on that and ask for a vote rather than, I'm just saying if we're gonna do it that way, let's do it that way, where it's open for discussion after the motion's made.
Yeah, well, I guess what we're asking here is do we want to require a motion before we have discussion? Typically, what we do is.
That's what I say, I don't care either way, just as long as we do the same every time, so I know what's going on.
and on this, I noticed A, it says item introduced by chair, because you've tried to come up and introduce it, so should the chair introduce it and then have the applicant?
By
or-
introduce, you just mean read the,
Agenda, right?
Right, but then you usually come up and
yeah.
I think it flows better when you just do a brief introduction.
right, I do too.
I like to see staff is recommending this motion.
I would like to see them take ownership in what they want, not expect you to tell us.
Right. Yeah.
So I would say, we're on to item number 6, you talk about it, and then you say, will the applicant for this item please come up, and then they can do their presentation.
Yeah.
So you want to change A to item introduced by staff?
No, I would just say, I would have Gary say, item number 6, person come up.
Not have staff come up at all.
Why does staff
He
need
would
to
have-
introduce them?
Ned Whitbeck come up, tell the thing, and then Lance would come up and do his thing, and then us. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And the introduction by chair could simply be. the
Okay,
name of the
we're ready for item number
Subdivision plan amendment.
Will the applicant come
Which is kind of
forward?
what we do now. Okay, we're on to item number 7 on the agenda.
What happens if the applicant's not here? And we feel it because they didn't show up to their own thing?
Then the staff just does it. I don't know, then
Item
the-
introduced by chair / staff. Maybe that's just a brief introduction. Yeah, item number 6. I like the way
you give a brief.
A brief introduction. This is item number 6. It's a rezone application. The applicant's here. Staff is, however deep you want to go. And then maybe just that brief introduction is enough to say, okay, we're ready for the applicant to make their,
Because sometimes the applicant
their
really doesn't
application.
know what to say, and they'll just come up and say, well, what do you want to know, or,
Well, so I say, let's amend it to say item introduced by staff. Or I leave it A, item introduced by chair, staff brief introduction, then petitioner developer presents. Request or presentation proposal. Do you want A to be item introduced by chair?
I think that's what he does when he goes through.
When he says
for
next
number
item.
6, next item, he's introducing it.
yeah, and then C is really next. Staff does a presentation and recommendation.
Or maybe, yeah, split it and have,
So staff could come up twice, but
yeah, have
what do you
staff up there
prefer?
twice.
What do you prefer?
I'd rather have the item introduced by chair than the applicant presents it.
Okay?
It's just a little quicker, just a little more efficient, rather than staff getting up and saying, this is an application for subdivision. I don't know, we're recommending approval or denial, sit back down. I think it would be fine to have them present their request. If you as introduction by chair said, this is a subdivision plat amendment application. I mean, it doesn't need to be more detailed than that, you can read it right off the agenda.
We can give it.
I'm running scenarios through my mind of recent applications. And if I introduce, okay, this is item number 7 on our agenda, it's an application for a rezone, and then we introduce the applicant, would they speak to, how would that flow with the public? A lot of times the applicant goes right to the things that they think we're going to object to, and we don't necessarily just hear just explain to me what it is you want. And, the public doesn't benefit from that. So if you introduce it, then the public understands, this is
That's that, yeah.
what's that?
The applicant, please come forward and present your result proposal with,
What are you requesting?
yeah, with their request. I don't know.
If it's a simple one, that would work, but if it's complex, it's not gonna work. You're gonna be back up here anyway, so.
I think you let Lance do like he's doing, come up for just a second, do it, sit down and let the applicant come in and address their application, what they want. And then if we have questions, we can ask Lance, like we do.
So, 1, item introduced by staff, 2, brief introduction by staff, or number 1 is introduced by chair.
Brief introduction.
Brief introduction by staff, then keep the rest of it the way it is.
Yep. That's good.
I think so.
That's fine. And the way this is worded on F, is the motion should generally precede the discussion, but it doesn't have to. So, I think it's okay the way it is.
Just cross that out.
It gives you the flexibility.
Or just, or
Just cross out the word condition.
you want that first sentence crossed off?
No, do they need to? I was just crossed that part.
Oh.
On page 7, the next one is just a word change from elected to appointed.
You know that last one we had about, Brown Valley? And how the one guy was saying, well, we have all this stuff, and then he was saying, no, you don't. And then we had a little bit of a banter.
It was Dustin's first meeting.
That's great.
He jinxed us.
This is his quietest meeting.
Trying to stay awake.
This is normal.
Stabilize.
Were we talking a little bit about how to let, maybe I'm completely wrong, but to let the public come up and after, so, and because we've been doing the public comment before, but them not knowing really what's going on, and then they hear all the stuff that you present and the applicant talks about, and then they want to talk again. Because they didn't know what they should be talking about before.
But they had the opportunity to call in.
Well, they can read it too.
But they can talk to, like Dustin said, they can talk to Lance and call him ahead of the meeting and ask what's going on.
I think I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
They hear the discussion and go, well, wait a minute, I didn't even think of that.
Or that's not
Yeah.
true.
So now I have something else to say.
Yeah, now I have an opinion.
And the general rule is, what?
Doesn't that-
You get one opportunity to.
Isn't that
the public
addressed in
hearing,
F?
And that's it.
What are they saying in the last sentence? If additional information is required, the public portion of the meeting may be open by a majority vote. Isn't that what we said?
That's why I brought that up, is because I read that. So last night, we could have voted to go back into public hearing,
Yes.
But there's no public
fine.
hearing for a subdivision.
It doesn't have to be a public hearing.
or
It's-
public
Public
comment. Public comment.
As long as that's in there, then we can vote to do that if we want to.
I didn't know we could do
haven't
that.
been, but procedure, yeah, you're right, we could.
I'm comfortable with
I would have said at the last meeting, that's something that we should have done.
We could have voted.
We
Right.
would have voted to say, I move, like, hearing all the discussion that they're not supposed to be having loudly, to go back into public comment.
Or we can say, no, we don't need any more.
Here's the thing is how do we decide who gets that, what items get that opportunity and what items don't?
I think the planning commission makes that decision. So when you heard the banter going on, you could have made a motion and said, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion for us to go back into public comment just to hear some more of what the public's got to say. And then we could second that and vote on it and say, okay, we're going to move back in.
Okay, I like that. I didn't know we could do that.
I didn't either until you just said it. But I think that would make sense in a lot of cases.
Sometimes,
But the purpose of it being there is for good order and discipline. And so it would have to be,
We could limit it to like 3 minutes of public comment.
You'd have to play everyone different situation, what's going
Right.
on.
because with administrative decisions, it should just be evidence we are requesting, not opinion. Because their opinion doesn't matter on
but
an
some-
administrator.
Yeah, but that piece of evidence that he was talking about, that's a big deal with the thing that
But
we were
it-
discussing.
But it was false.
It-
Yeah,
We
but
didn't know that.
We didn't have anything to
I
tell us it
told you
was.
That document is here in it was here in, it wasn't in the packet, but it was in the development agreement.
Okay.
The concern, I think you have the leeway to do that.
anyway.
If new information is presented and you want to let the public respond, I think that's fine and be selective. If it's, the caution is with the right group of people that are a little bit practiced, that you'll lose control of the meeting. And it'll just turn into chaos and you'll have to have a strong arm.
As long as it's
And put
clear,
it back together.
we want evidence. If you have some evidence to bring
Or
forward,
new information.
new information or evidence,
But you've got to, it's hard to control that once you've opened it. Well, you know, you let this one, you let that one, how many times do you do it? I think there's times where it's appropriate.
You're right. I can think of
but
2 or
it's-
3 times in the
I
past
think it's caution.
that, yeah, for sure.
but we have opened it back up in the past too. We've allowed.
And it's not just for the public. I think a lot of it is for us because, Haley, in that case, you wanted more information. So, you know, you deserve the right to hear that to clarify that before you make a decision.
Yeah.
So I think it's good procedure for you to make a motion to do that if you need something clarified. Like I said, but I don't know that we have to really speak to it other than what's already in here.
Yeah.
It's enough, I think it's enough just for us to know that we can do that.
Yep.
Page 9, ethics.
Back on page 7, motion to recess, do you want to
Oh,
refer that?
No.
sorry, no.
No,
I don't think, I can count maybe 5 times that I remember that it went so long that someone said, look, we gotta take a bathroom break. So, okay, let's recess for 5 minutes.
so just
It's
strike
kind of
that
like,
one.
it's kind of like the last so moved at the end of the meeting. It's like, it kind of just flies by. Oh, sorry, there's, page 8, I missed that one. Oh, that's just spaces.
So, sorry, we're back to page 9.
Yes.
Andre, I think, do you want to just follow what the county council states? Or, well, just follow.
For the whole paragraph, just say the planning commission will follow state code.
P1. We need to have something in there. For P1, I'd say insert language from
Okay.
county council. which-
Or the state code, yeah. And then number 2, it talks about report private conversation. So if someone asks us a question, we need to report that. Or is it just with the applicant? Or just public in general?
You can't report all your conversations.
Let's
'Cause
say,
I know they're interested parties, the public.
I would think it's more with the applicant, because
Right.
there's people always ask us what's going on, you know.
Well, and there's, you don't know this, I have to check, but ex parte communication, I mean, significant. If somebody's just asking for information, that's not the same as, well, how are you gonna vote on this?
Right.
Because.
That's kind of our job, is to give the
Issue
information
cow,
to the
you
public.
do, or whatever, or your tractor. You know.
Or let us have mink farms in smaller subdivisions.
Okay, we're leaving it the way it is then?
I don't know, does it even need to be in there? Number 2? I mean, is it okay, does ex parte,
That's part of the ethics. I'm sure that's part of state code, to have to disclose that. Check.
I will check number 2 for mistake.
Okay.
that's it? Just gonna make changes and bring them back again?
Do you want me to bring it back, or, I can make the changes and bring it back, and we can have another discussion, or I can just make the changes?
Do we have to have a hearing for our bylaws, public hearing for our bylaws? No. You just make the changes and bring it back for a vote.
Do we need to forward it, or does it just go directly to the
Just
council?
for you guys, it's yours.
I think the council has to approve.
Right there.
Yeah, well, I know that those,
I think the council has to approve our bylaws.
It would be good form to send it to them so they could look at
requires
it.
the county council to approve them.
Are they gonna read them?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
They can just watch it on YouTube.
So we'll bring
I'm
it,
just speaking out of turn here, but because of all of this, I've tried to make the drive with the council, but Mr. McConnell is now pushing what you're doing right now. So the county council will have guidelines just like what you got, because you guys started this conversation.
But you wrote the bylaws, so.
Okay.
He amended them.
Mine specifically addressed Robert Rules of Order. A lot of this other stuff I've been talking about was already in the existing bylaws.
Oh, was it? Okay. Thanks, Lance. So you're gonna bring that back?
So we can forward it.
you know, motion for,
Okay, on to item number 8. Any new business for us?
just 1 second. I think, just kind of goings on, we have a lot of that, we have several applications that are wrapping up and are coming together. They're not quite ready for a public meeting or hearings, but there's a few things out there. Are under review, finding more material, so I think we're kind of in a little lull right now, but we're gonna get busy again here soon. To that end, the Wasatch Peaks Ranch, I'm sure most of you, I'm sure you all know, had an open house last night. It was well attended, well over 100 people at Bar W Lodge, and they had some boards up, kind of a little bit of introduction, a little bit of information on the Wasatch Peaks Ranch, and answered a couple questions for a couple hours solid. So, I mean, there was a good group of people right at the get-go, so. So that's coming forward, and they hope to submit that application end of this month, early March.
Did you went to that last night?
Yes, I attended.
Would you say that that was an overall positive experience from our community, or people are not?
I don't know, get everybody's opinion. I thought it was good that they had it, and good that the community can come out and learn a little bit more about what they're doing and ask
I heard a mix.
It was well controlled, you know, so it was informative for the people to see what's going on.
And there was a good mix, I think, of people that are for it, that don't like it.
should note that I just found out I'm going to be out of town the last week of February. So if you can make it the first meeting in March, I might,
Think what?
Wasatch Peaks, if they do make application.
But it
Oh,
won't be,
no,
open.
no, no.
Did you say March or April?
They're gonna submit their application.
Okay. I
For
thought you meant-
review.
I thought you meant he was going to make it to our
Plus,
first meeting.
actually, because up to date, all the work we've been doing is not open for the public, it hasn't been
Right.
for public review. When they submit the application, we'll review it for completeness, then distribute it for referrals. We're gonna send it out to, all the county agencies and a few state agencies for review, because it's such a large development. So all that will do is kick off the review timeframe. So I think March and April will be out for out for referral agency review, and that information coming back, so that would be March, April. And then probably in May, we would come to the planning commission. And I can't remember their schedule, there's something like that, May, June. So it's not gonna be the end of the month.
Okay.
So, or even in March.
Okay.
And that'll be, that's a lot of,
But I can always call in to vote if you need me to.
there you go.
you probably wanna be here when that discussion goes on.
I don't think we have any other business.
I have a question that, for the league, we don't have to do it that way.
Correct?
Yeah. As long as we get,
The training.
it's just for the open public meeting.
Uh-huh. And,
Open
You'd all
public
have to
meeting.
sign in and do their little.
no, you don't have to you don't have to do it that way. You can, the council just has Jan tell them, just inform them what the rules are. We could have,
Feel like we've discussed this before, and you guys wanted to take care of it on your own, take care of it on your own.
well,
My opinion, just wishful thinking on my part.
we could even do it at the meeting if we want. We could bring that up and we can go over it.
That would
As a
meet,
group?
that would meet the requirement.
That would meet the requirement.
So,
I think it's an or thing, not an, it's an and thing, not
do
an
you
or.
want to put the open meetings training on a future agenda?
No, because you could go to the council meeting, and as long as you're there.
Yeah, I heard it.
Then you could be certified for the year, that's fine. But if we can't make it, then that gives us the option to go online and just take it.
Just send the link out, please.
'Cause it's,
That'd be it.
yeah.
Yeah.
The link is a good alternate option
Yeah.
at least.
You can have the attorney come to our meeting and instruct
Yes,
us.
we could have Jan come to our meeting. Okay, any other questions for staff or business for us?
The other thing is on the February 28th meeting, we don't have any applications for review. There's nothing ready to go, so we've got nothing on that agenda.
Okay, if there's nothing on the agenda, that's the week I'm out of town, so.
I don't have to conduct a meeting unless something comes up.
Well, it would have to come up by
That's what I mean.
Tuesday morning
Okay.
to be noticed, so.
So if it doesn't, that would work out perfect.
And which one is that?
February 28th. Any objections to
Because
that?
some things only need 24-hour notice.
I'll go to the luau.
You don't have to have 10 days for administrative items.
Well, we don't have any applications.
That's what I mean.
Staff report's done.
Right. No, that might work
No,
perfectly.
we're good.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. And thank you for the staff report tonight. I really like this format.
Okay, good.
Okay, if there's nothing else, we can move on to the approval, January 24th meeting minutes. Any,
Page one.
nothing?
I don't know, on page 1.
Page two.
I do, and I don't know what, Chris, on that second paragraph, the zoning ordinance requirements for approving the rezone R should be a colon there, the dot,
Okay.
and then the capital does, but they're all questions. Does it fit with the general plan question. Then the next, is it harmonious with the surrounding area question? All those statements need a question mark capital at the beginning, and are the facilities adequate?
Okay. Anything else on that?
Yeah, down regarding Lance Crowther, when he talked,
Okay.
the last sentence, it says, "The right-of-way, when it was given, was for small, and it is now past the scope of what is given."
That's what he said.
That's exactly what he said? Okay.
Yes.
Parentheses, SIC.
You're supposed to make everyone, yeah, okay.
No, I was told I'm only supposed to make.
And that's look smart?
Had to go back in
Well, just him.
Tuesday.
I can't get out.
Meeting.
Can I get a milkshake?
I certainly tried. You guys did pretty good on your own.
Okay, that's fine, it makes sense to me.
I really thought it'd be okay.
Yes.
Surprised.
Okay, this is Member Bass stated that the issues the public are having are not what they deal with.
PC deals with what you guys.
Yes, that's what the planning commission, yeah, needs that word, okay.
Okay.
And that's it for that page.
4?
Yep, down in the second paragraph, there, about the third line up, it says, "He has a manure spreader to pump the water into his existing drain field." I don't think manure spreaders pump water.
That's what he said.
Did he say manure spreader?
I can't listen to the minutes because
Okay.
they got messed up last meeting.
Thought it
Because
was
manure spreaders don't pump.
No, I thought it was just parked on top of where it was.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
So he said he has a manure spreader parked on top of his existing drain field so people don't drive over it.
correct.
Okay.
Because I thought manure
I
spreaders,
got that.
they don't pump. They shoot.
That's right.
Okay.
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 Nothing on 5, I didn't. Someone,
6.
yes, this is where I need to sound smart, I may have said that. In the second paragraph, member sessions asked the applicant what he did for,
What he did it for.
or to explain his repair business, or, I think I asked him to explain his repair business, or explain what he's doing. And then he answered, he stated it is nights and weekends, mostly for families and friends. It should be period, then he has a full-time job.
Okay.
That's it.
That's it?
Anything else?
Motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
1 abstain.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all very much.
You miss me when I'm not here for that, don't you?
We're just here all night. We just sit here staring at each other.
Promise you. They're not all like.
I've done pretty good for
We'll
about
give them
7
much
years
talk
of that one.
the next couple of weeks.
Of the
Well,
training meetings.
Wasatch Peak. Ever since I started, pretty well done.
What, now when is it?